Trainwreck wants to get... Okay, here's the question for you. Trainwreck is asking about getting Nuance Bro on the podcast so that you and I can dunk on him. And I told him...
He's so boring. I hate people like that. It makes me want to fucking end myself.
I don't think I have any responsibility because I have just freedom of speech and people can make their own decision. I don't want to cater to the lowest common denominator. And I think my intentions are good.
It's so fucking boring talking to people. It's like...
Yeah, well, he did an entire video on... are you familiar with what happened with Jasmine Barnes, like the 7-year-old girl that got shot and killed in Houston?
No.
Her mom was like leaving a Walmart. And I think my sensitivity is too low. So her mom's leaving a Walmart. Car pulls up fucking in front of them and then basically shoots into their car. And the 7-year-old in the car dies. There's like 3 sisters in the back seat and one of them dies. So what happens after is there's 4 eyewitnesses. They all give the same testimony. They say that there's like this white dude. The description is white guy in his 40s, bearded, wearing a red sweatshirt in a red pickup truck. And the police circulate the red pickup truck and all of this information to the public. They say the manhunt is going on, but we have no idea who this is. We have no idea what the motive is, and we're not ruling out hate crime as a motivator. Now, police officers, whenever they say we're not ruling hate crime as a motivator, it's more often than not a hate crime, usually. So me running off with that sort of information, I did a video describing everything I just told you, and then talked about and then said, hey, the police said this is not a hate crime. They're not ruling out the possibility that this might be a hate crime. So let's talk about hate crimes for a second in America. And then I just started talking about statistics on like how black people make up like 60% of the victims of hate crimes in America and all this other shit. Oh shit, this guy's gonna fucking kill me, dude. I don't have anything. Fuck me, dude. I don't have guns. There's fucking zombies everywhere. This is terrible. So yeah, I did this like video, and then you know what happened? It turns out the guy was white. The guy wasn't white. The guy was fucking black. The killers were actually the killers were actually 2 guys in a fucking. So as I was saying, it turns out that the guys were. It was a gang related. Yeah, it was a gang related kill, right?
Okay.
So as soon as like that came out, we got fucking brigaded. Like I got brigaded. People were like, "Oh, you're a fucking race baiter. Like you didn't wait for all the facts to come out." And I was like, "Bro, there was a 3-day manhunt going on. There was a 4-day manhunt going on. The police officers literally were begging for someone to help them out and like release this information. This is the institution that gave us the information. As a news organization, what do you want us to do? Like we have to work off of the information that like.
I understand where you're going with this, but I'm probably not gonna side with you here. I would say that talking about it being a hate crime would be pretty proud. That's even like.
I didn't say no. I know, but I didn't say it was a hate crime. I said the police officers have not ruled out the likelihood that it is.
Yeah, sure, but I mean that would be like if there was like a bombing somewhere, and like the police officers haven't ruled out that it's Muslim terrorism.
Yeah,
right?
So that's exactly what he said. But if it was a 3-day, if it was an ongoing manhunt, and they said that we're looking for a fucking bearded Muslim man or like a bearded brown guy, then that's totally different. Usually, more often than not, there's never a situation in the with these sorts of bombings or whatever where there's like one or only 2 different people who say like, wait, hold on, one or only 2 other key witnesses. There's multiple witnesses. Like in this instance, all of the witnesses collectively stated that, oh shit, the guy's behind me and he's shooting at me and I'm gonna fucking die. When are you playing Fortnite again? Never again. Remy a bucks plenty, but thank you for the subscription. Witness ID is well known to be notoriously inaccurate. I know, but if it was just witnesses, if it wasn't the fact that the police officers that were also in their press release asking other people to release this information and
here's my position on this. There's literally absolutely never ever. This is why I hate breaking news. There's never any value that comes out of covering these types of things before all the information is released. Like knowing about it like a day or 2 or whatever earlier or some hours earlier, just it never gives you anything better, and there's so much potential harm that can come from doing it early. That's why I usually try to avoid making any comments.
I know, but this is like I covered the story the day of, but the information didn't change for 4 days. Like it wasn't like this wasn't like a accident because I arrived at it first. And anyway, news organizations do this regardless. Like news organizations release this sort of information, and what do you call it? Like news organizations release this information, and if new information comes out and we find out that the victim is totally different, then you issue a correction or you redact something. You know what I mean? It's not like you don't wait to fucking report on the news, like especially if it's
but there's no difference between reporting on the news and talking about hate crimes in the U.S. after this happens, right?
Yeah, no, I understand, but it's not like I'm misreporting anything. I'm saying that this could be a potential hate crime, and here are the statistics for hate crimes in America.
That's like a Muslim does something and it's like, or a brown person is like, well, here's the statistics for Muslim extremist terrorism, and you know, we're just.
I know, but as long as the fucking statistics that they're mentioning are correct, if they're like, here are the Muslim fundamentalist, like violent Muslim fundamentalist instances in America or whatever. Oh yeah, I mean, okay, that's fair. There is an implication.
Yeah.
And by the way, and I know that the information is incorrect, so I literally took it down. Like I took the videos down. If I thought that it was like, if I didn't have any issue releasing that information, if I didn't have any issue having that information still up after being corrected, I wouldn't have taken it down. So I did. I issued a correction and then I took the fucking video down, right?
Okay.
But it's still not enough for these guys. Now they're like, oh, well, you fucking immediately ran, you race baiter, you're a fucking race baiter. I'm like, dude, I'm not a race baiter. I'm working off the information that they gave us. Like, I'm working off the information the police gave us. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, but I mean, all these arguments would be used for the Muslim example as well, right?
I know, but the difference between most or almost all Muslim examples is that it's never for the next 4 days, and it's never the police's official information. If the police actually officially release this information after analyzing the situation, then that's totally fair. But the conflation here is that almost in every single instance where like a Paul Joseph Watson goes out and releases like fucking information about how the shooter was Muslim or whatever, it's purposefully a lie. They're not using any sort of evidence testimony. They're not using anything. They're just fucking lying and speculating.
Okay.
That's why I have a hard time. That's why I have a hard time when like Nuance Bro makes that argument and says like, well, you're a fucking liar and you're a race baiter
Just
and you're a piece of shit. Like, you don't give a
wanna
fuck
get
about this
banned,
person,
go ahead.
this 7-year-old's death. It's like, bitch, you don't give a fuck about the 7-year-old's death. I covered the actual story. I did this in
well,
an
that's a
effort
cheap
to-
argument, because to be fair, no one really gives a fuck about a random 7-year-old dying. Like, people die all the time. To pretend otherwise is pretty dumb.
No, but it's still fucking shitty. And the reason the reason why I'm covering the story is so that I can. The reason why at least I was covering that story specifically on that day is so that I can help as much as I can and spread the spread the information the police gave out and literally said, please spread this information. There was a bounty placed on this person as well. For any sort of information that led to the capture of this person. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I totally see what you're saying. I just 1,000,000% disagree with you. I just don't think there's any value whatsoever in covering like breaking news in that way and then implying anything about like a hate attack. I just don't see any value in it, and I see a potential downside. Well, which is what you're experiencing as the downside, right?
Yeah. And again, like I said, if the information at the time wasn't solid, I wouldn't have worked off of it.
Well, you didn't work off anything to get to the hate crime. That's just...
No,
that's your assumption.
The hate crime, it's not like I said this is a hate crime. I said
okay, chill, because now you're doing what Nuance Bro does. You didn't say it was a hate crime, but you said, let's talk about hate crimes. So why do you keep saying you didn't say it was a hate crime?
But this is what I do regardless. I'm not like, I use existing stories. Like, I use existing news articles to talk about ongoing issues in the United States. And he's to the left, he's 100.
Fucked up, and I cancel my shit.
So I use existing stories that are occurring that are in the news cycle to talk about things that are happening. And the fact that it wasn't actually a hate crime is the reason why I took it off. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like, if it was...
Listen. Okay, here's what happened. A news story broke, and you said, hey, this news story broke. There could be this narrative. Let's talk about things related to this narrative. Now, I'm not saying that it is this narrative, but we're going to talk. I'm never going to agree with that. There's no argument you can ever give me that's ever going to sway me to say, like, oh yeah, I totally understand it. I would just never do it. That's just my stance on it. Maybe we come at it from different points of view, but
okay, this is a perfect. Wait, hold on. This is a perfect example. Didn't you bitch at Ryan Saavedra for reporting on the original account of the California shooter being a Middle Easterner when it turned out to be a white person? Absolutely. Do you know why? Because the immediate account that the person was a Middle Easterner was off of one person's testimony when there was 20 other fucking people that were saying otherwise, and in an hour it was corrected by the police.
Yeah, but these are two totally different arguments. These are two totally different arguments. I'm not talking about misreporting.
Someone is saying that to me in my chat.
Oh, okay. Because misreporting the facts is something different than framing a narrative. These are two totally different things, right?
What do you mean? I mean,
we can talk about whether or not. So he could still have reported the correct facts.
He's biased. I know he's biased, I'm just saying that's why he's like.
No, I'm saying he could have still reported the correct facts. Like, even if his facts were correct, if it was a Muslim and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm reporting this. He was a Muslim. I think it was terrorism." That's the jump that I'm having a problem with. Not reporting facts correctly or incorrectly. That's a separate issue. You can still report all the facts correctly, but still make a jump that I wouldn't be comfortable with. So, for instance, somebody finds out there was a shooting and someone says there was a brown man present or whatever. Like what happened, I want to say it was with the mosque shooting in Canada. There were true facts reported. I believe that there was a suspect, a Middle Eastern man, was identified as a suspect. All of that was true, and people jumped to terrorism. But it turned out that guy was actually like reporting the shooter or whatever, right? He wasn't the actual shooter. So this is a case where even if you get the facts correct, I just don't like framing a narrative before we have all the facts. Mainly because I just don't see a value in doing it. You don't gain anything by doing breaking news aside from views, right? You don't gain anything from trying to figure out stories like as they're happening, breaking. You might as well just wait a day or two to let everything sort out. That's all I'm saying. That's my point of view.
You would have been better off leaving it up, issuing a correction or a caption for full transparency. No, I did. I did issue a correction on my page. That's the only place I left it up on purpose so that people didn't think that I was fucking running away from this or anything like that. And mentioned that it was incorrect. The information given to us was not right. But I've never been in a situation in my entire life where the police officers and all eyewitness testimony turned around and said that this was going on, and the police had not ruled the possibility of a hate crime, which is usually what the narrative is when it is more often than not a hate crime. So I use that as a launching point to talk about hate crimes in America, which is what I do every single time. If I'm talking about incarceration in America, I talk about recidivism and rehabilitation, not incarceration. This is what I choose to opine on. This is where the
Sure, here's the question. What value do you gain from doing it before all the facts are in? If you would have made the video 2 or 3 days later,
Yeah, well, the difference there is that I have to make, the difference there is because it was a breaking news story where there's an ongoing manhunt, and I want to fucking help out as best as I can. And ironically, I didn't. I did the opposite of helping out. I ended up spreading information that wasn't accurate. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. No, I'm fucking so dead. He just punished me, dude. He just punished me for misreporting, dude. Whoa, he can't even fucking kill me. Holy shit. Yeah, now people are like, no, he wanted it to be a white man. That's why he highlighted the story. You can't race bait if the killer is of a different race and all this other shit. Why did the Young Turks delete these videos? What are they hiding? There's so much bullshit out there where they're it's so frustrating where what do you call it? It's so frustrating that people are just oh no, that's just fake news. It's not fucking fake news. There's a difference between someone who's I think this person is a Muslim and this is Muslim terrorism, and I think that or the difference between the police officers have said that this is what's going on. Here are all the reportings. Also, additionally, working off one of the things that the police officers have also not ruled out as a possibility.
Oh my God, you're reaching so hard here. I know you've got a big reach, but this is oof. How many times could a police officer say we're not ruling out Islam extremism, right? I feel like you would be on the total other side of the issue. Just because they're not ruling out terrorism.
If whoever the party who was best at analyzing that, if they're that in this instance to be the FBI, if the FBI is oh, we're not ruling out the possibility that this is a radical or fundamentalist terror, then I think that's a totally valid fucking thing to I think that's a valid thing to cover.
Okay.
Like that's what news outlets do. They issue correct. There's a reason why the news outlets issue corrections. You know what I mean? Like, what's the Okay, let me ask you this way, and maybe this will be a little bit better. Okay, this will
It's not.
No. I'm gonna ask you a question. Yeah, I corrected myself just like every other fucking news outlets do, but what was I gonna say? Okay, so what's the right time to cover news stories then?
It's not about, okay, so for me personally, I hate breaking news. As soon as some major terrorist event shit happens, I shut off Twitter, I shut off all, and I wait 2 fucking days.
Yeah, but
because
this isn't
nothing irritates me.
This isn't even a major terrorist event.
Okay, chill. You just
murder.
You just asked me about breaking news, and I'm telling you my general opinion. I fucking hate breaking news. I hate it because it's all it does is it leads to a bunch of people speculating the fuck out of everything. There is literally no person in the history of all the world has ever said, I'm so glad I knew about that shooter 27 seconds after it happened as opposed to the next day. It literally doesn't fucking matter. Whether 10 people die in Vegas or 500 people die in Vegas or whatever, or a week or whatever, none of it fucking matters to me, right? Now, if I've got somebody personally involved, we contact the police, et cetera, et cetera. But otherwise, so it seems like there's very little value in breaking news. Now, the danger in breaking news is that as events happen in real time, people can form narratives and opinions about things very fucking quickly, and those things stick. I'm sure you know this because you do kind of like the journalism thing, right? Or whatever, right? You would say you're in journalism, right? You would say that? Or would you say that? Yeah.
I mean, I'm a commentator, but yeah.
So you know the dangers of somebody publishing a story and how woefully ineffective retractions are, right? The initial story always sticks harder than the other.
Yeah.
So like as soon as those narratives form, like early on, you get things like the fake terrorist attacks that like Trump mentions, all that shit, like all of that, like it's so damaging that like I never ever I just don't think there's any reason to engage in framing. But it wasn't simple. But it wasn't simple because you yourself admitted that you had it incorrect.
Here's the difference
right?
between like a massive fucking terrorism. Here's the difference. There's a massive fucking terror story is drastically different than like a murder where we don't know if it's like premeditated or we don't know what the fucking entire facts are, and there's an ongoing manhunt.
Like, all of it is so irrelevant. It doesn't matter. None of this gets you to the point where it's like, well, maybe I can imply that this is a hate crime. Like you're never gonna get there. You never make that gap. Like even if it's ongoing, even if it's breaking, even if it's whatever, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that that's why I took the video down, is because while I openly mentioned that the police officers have not ruled out the possibility that this might be a hate crime, and then talked about a larger narrative or a larger issue of like hate crimes in the United States, as I do with every other story, to talk about like the larger picture, which is what I use.
Yeah, but what if the larger picture is Islamic extremism and someone's just saying, well, the police haven't ruled out. Like, you could use all these same arguments, could all be used for...
I understand that you can use these same arguments, and I already did not rule out the possibility that it could be acceptable in certain... No, it could absolutely be acceptable to say that in certain instances. It's all a matter of context. And for me, for when it comes to like a domestic murder case, if the police officers have already revealed this information and are asking people to go out and fucking spread this information in an effort to find and capture the person... Why do you keep conflating these
things? It's not about going out and spreading the information. That's not what you're doing when you're saying, let's talk about hate crimes. That's framing a narrative. We're waiting.
No. I'm saying, I agree that part is not... That part is what I normally do. And in this instance, it was because the information that I got was not correct. But the information is verifiable at that point. Even if it's not correct, it's still exactly the kind of information that any news outlet would use. As a matter of fact, all news outlets use that information.
Yeah, but you can use the information without framing a narrative. That's what I'm saying. That's the only thing. I think we're gonna majorly agree to disagree on this one. There's no way I'm being swayed by this. I don't disagree at all with like reporting information. But when you start like implying like...
Yeah, I mean, No, I understand. I understand your perspective, and I'm already agreeing to it because of the fact that the information was incorrect.
Oh my god.
What are you saying? Oh my god, to? Are you being shot at?
This guy just tried to fucking knife me. Holy shit. No, he didn't.
I think I should have clarified further. And said that, look, we don't know. I mean, I already clarified it though, if that's even the problem. I said we don't know that this is...
Okay, hold on, wait. Give me 1 sec. There's a... Wait.
Hasan, I said potential, dude. I never said that it was a hate crime, okay? I never said. I know that it's the implication that it makes it seem like it might be a hate crime, but every point. No. I look. I'm admitting.
Oh no. All right.
Houston, look. Houston local news covered it as a hate crime. Spread the police sketch of a white man days before it was actually resolved. I have to work off of the fucking local news that I'm getting, and more importantly than I have to work off of the fucking police the police information that I'm getting. Okay, it's not an issue to cover these stories in the same way, especially when your responsibility as a news organization, if you're doing straightforward, unbiased, like objective coverage, is to spread the news. So, but my job on top of that is to opine on the news. My issue here was openly saying that there is a likelihood that this could be a hate crime, and using that to talk about the police not even fucking ruling that out. Police didn't rule out gang-related incident, which is statistically more likely. Why not talk about that? Picking hate crime, which is way less likely, seems like pushing a narrative. No, because the police didn't fucking mention that they didn't rule out a gang-related incident. Covitas, like, what the fuck are you talking about? They, in their press release, they mentioned that they weren't ruling out a hate crime, but they didn't say that they're not ruling out a fucking gang-related incident. It's not
Did
like
they say they weren't ruling out Islamic terrorism?
No, I don't know. I mean, they didn't. They didn't mention that. Anyway, regardless, I literally corrected myself, and then I fucking deleted the video on top of that, so that in an effort not to spread false information any further. But it doesn't matter, and this is the issue. Like, none of this fucking matters. Can you say that you were just memeing? This is how reporting is done, isn't a justification. I don't understand, like, how do you guys think reporting is supposed to be done? Like, everyone is a fucking ethics and journalism like major all of a sudden in the chat whenever this sort of conversation happens. Everyone's an analytics specialist for social media when it comes to like channels succeeding or failing, and everyone's a fucking
Fucking ban him, dude. Tell him you were memeing and ban him.
We're gamergators. We're experts in journalism ethics. Exactly. Yeah, I'll just wait. No, it's fine, guys. I'll just wait next time, like 3.5 weeks. I'll wait till the fucking guy is caught, and then at that point, I'll wait for the court case to actually come through, so I can actually fucking make a
That's what I wish. People criticize me all the time, but honestly, when people in chat are like, "Oh my god, did you hear?" I'm like, dude, I don't care how many people are dead, what the story is. Tell me tomorrow when people actually know what happens. That shit. That's what I say every time. Tell me tomorrow.
But it's not like by the way, I didn't like pull the trigger early either. Like, what's the most verifiable information that you could work off of if you were, let's say, you're a journalist, right?
Knowing that the guy is white is not, or whatever, is not enough to go to consume it's a hate crime.
Dog. No, not knowing that the guy is white. I'm saying that, like, the police mentioning that specifically means that there's a high likelihood that that could be the case. It's not just that they said that, oh, well, the guy is white, so it's a hate crime.
And if there is an attack somewhere and they identify a Middle Eastern man, honest to God, inside, I'm assuming it's a fucking terrorist attack too. I mean, that's the assumption I would make. But but I wouldn't like talk about that publicly because who knows? I'm coming to you. Did you get him?
Lol, no, Hasan added a narrative instead of just reporting the facts. Guys, I am a fucking op-ed person, okay? I write opinion pieces, okay? I write opinion pieces.
Yeah, so does Alex Jones.
Okay, dude. Yeah, Alex Jones isn't writing an opinion piece off of what the police officers were fucking mentioning, okay? Holy shit. This is the main difference. Didn't Sean King himself hand over more accurate info to the police last Thursday? Info that led to the correct arrest? Did that not show that? Did he not show that to TYT? No, I wrote the story before Sean King found additional information on top of it. Which, by the way, Sean King is also being vilified on top of TYT for this, despite the fact that he raised $100,000 to find who the fucking killers were. Despite the fact that he was also inaccurately reporting on what was happening. Despite the fact that his information was literally the information that got the actual killers fucking found. So is it okay if the police report is a Middle Eastern? Okay, in this instance, instead of the police, if it's the FBI or whoever handles, like whoever the most responsible party is, okay? Whoever the most responsible fucking party is that handles this sort of predicament, if they do a press release, I'm going to use all of that information in that press release, and I'm going to assume that all of the information in that press release is like the best possible truth that I can work off of. The difference is that there's no narrative being pushed. X happened, it could be Y. Let's talk about Y is different than X happened, it could be Y. And by the way, all Muslims are terrorists. While it's not good practice to write an op-ed on an open story, it's definitely not the same as race baiting.
The one that involves Destiny
Okay,
driving home
Dinkelberg did a better job describing my position than I did.
Buckle up, buckaroo.
The issue isn't your reporting on the press release, but I never... Okay, this is an important, I want to be as honest and as transparent with everyone as possible, and I want to talk to other people about this, which is why I'm having this conversation with Destiny, an honest-to-God contrarian, who already has like a lot of skepticisms about the media coverage regardless, which is why I'm having this conversation, okay? Because I want to do better. I want to be better, and I don't want to have this issue again. So in the future, if something like this were to happen, Destiny, if you're, I believe your perspective is just wait until all the facts come out. Obviously, I can't do that because that's not my job. My job is to, like, the facts were out at that point. Do you know what I mean? Like, enough facts were out for me to cover this. And obviously, I don't have, like, an objective.
Okay, here's the question. Ready? We'll walk down a quick argument. Ready?
Okay.
Let's say that you report the facts about some story, okay? The facts are all true, right? Yeah? Follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say that from those facts, you could draw 3 or 4 different likely scenarios that happen, okay? Correct?
Yeah.
Do you think it would be responsible to talk about any of those scenarios without having further facts to confirm them?
Do you think it's responsible to talk about any of those scenarios?
Correct.
Without having additional information that solidifies that it is a hate crime or any other
anything? Whoa! Not even hate crime. I'm just saying, like.
No. I understand. It depends on what the police, what the information is. If the police officer
No. Okay, no. Wait. Don't make it more complicated. Shh. Okay. Let's say a news story comes out. Let's say that a news story comes out. Let's say a news story comes out. Okay. News story comes out, and the story was, hey, there has been a shooting of a man. And you're like, well, we see that a man got shot. Now, I'm going to release a whole bunch of information. Let's just talk about what happens if you get shot in the dick. Do you think that somebody watching that might be led to believe that for some reason there's like a decent probability that a person's been shot in the dick? Do you think that's like a reasonable jump that somebody might think that because that's what you're deciding to cover?
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you so far.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the whole thing. So when you're reporting on... I'm done.
Dude. Okay, go on with your...
But that's it. You're speculating based on incomplete facts on a narrative that you can't support, and then that's it. Oh,
fuck.
At Matty Weesully.
Okay. Let me say. I guess we don't need to even watch the video for this, but if you want, we could do that as well, and you can tell me exactly what you have an issue with if you were to watch this. You could have delivered the facts without opining, however valid from a legitimate place of trying to do good. The goal was to just do the news. Their problem is opining, but this is what I do. My job is to opine. My job is to add my perspective onto it. And if the facts, if the main facts that I'm getting are just that, the facts, and I even mention myself, if I mention that this is not like fully correct information, or if I mention that this is just pure speculation at that point, but then go on to talk about actual facts about hate crimes.
Sure. So would you accept this? Would you accept the opposite? Would you accept the opposite? So somebody says, we've gotten reports that there was a shooting downtown, and the perpetrator, has been identified so far by 3 different eyewitnesses as a Middle Eastern man. Now, we don't know why he did this or what's going on, but let's talk about some Sunni extremism around the world. Like, let's talk about some terrorist attacks around the world and the statistics about that. Do you think that's kind of leading, even if the person qualifies?
No, not around the world, but if it's like, dude, but if it's literally a domestic terror incident, and if it's
wait, but you're talking about hate crime stats around like the whole U.S. I don't think you were talking about them like particular to that city, were you? Or like?
Yeah, no, that's why I said domestic. Destiny, domestic means the U.S. You're talking about terror all around the world.
Okay, around the United States. Then craft the analogy.
Yeah, okay.
So let's talk about terrorist attacks around the United States.
I would say the proper analogy where I would be completely where I would act, and I said this already. The proper analogy here is if the news outlets were reporting this as as a Muslim terrorist, right? A Muslim terrorist, but this is like the appropriate amount of like a day has passed already that every single eyewitness has mentioned that this is a Muslim terrorist, and that on top of that they have like the proper party who handles these sort of investigations.
That's not a good analogy, because saying they're a Muslim terrorist means you can talk about Muslim terrorism. How about if they just say he's Middle Eastern and that's it?
Okay. Oh yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay,
They said no, fair. They said this is a Middle Easterner. Okay, this is a Middle Easterner who went out and like shot someone, and the information is there, and they said like, oh my God, this is a Middle Easterner, Middle Eastern descent, and the FBI in that instance, nothing short of that is acceptable from my perspective, because I think that the FBI covering like Muslim terror is similar to the local police department covering like domestic any sort of like murder case. You know what I mean?
Okay.
If it's just like some random people saying like, if it's just the police officers in that instance saying, well, no, this is a Middle Eastern man, it's probably, we're not ruling out the possibility that it's terror, it's not acceptable. But if it's the FBI saying that this is, there's a high likelihood that this is we're not ruling out the fact that this could be a terror incident, then people reporting it as a possible terror incident and then talking about terror incidents domestically in the United States and like how many times Middle Easterners have contributed to that is perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I understand. I just totally disagree.
Okay.
But I love you. Okay. And that's the important thing.
All right. What the real terror is the friends we made along the way, right?
Is that how it goes?
No, I don't know.
When a friend makes a mistake, the mistake remains a mistake, and the friend remains a friend. That's the important thing. Where'd you land at?
Soon.
Hold on, I got you.
You would have a very different perspective if it was an alt-right person talking about Muslims. I mean, yeah, I don't consider myself
Dropping meds.
The same. Oh, thank you. I don't consider myself like a alt-right person talking about. Am I the alt-right to white people like or hate crimes? Like I just report on whatever the fucking police officers we're talking about. Are you unaware that the legal system in the United States is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty in a court of law? I ask because you frequently cited as an authority for your argument the fact that the police charged with a male with a crime. Given this presumption, what point exactly do you think you were making by saying the police charged someone with a crime? Yeah, no, I'm not saying that this person is like absolutely guilty, dog. There was no person to fucking point the finger at anyway. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's a semantics argument. That's stupid. For a better analogy, what if police described it as a Latino man and then reporters talked about border security? Would that be justifiable? Is that the same?
Yes.
Every single time? Really? You think that it's the same as like the police officers not ruling out that this is like... No, that's not the same at all, because one is vilifying. I'm not saying all white people are capable of fucking committing hate crimes. If there was additional information, like for example, if they had said that this white person, this white suspect that we think is a white suspect, went out and had some form of like some semblance of a motive rather than a complete random fucking like a complete random shooting, okay? Then yes, absolutely. Like, but if it's a Latino person, and more often than not in those instances, or at least the ones that I can think of, there's always another motive. It's like, oh, this person wanted to fuck this person, and then they followed them, and then people usually use that to make an effort or make a case for border security. I don't consider that to be the same analogy at all. Correct. However, when you look at the data, white people are number one for committing hate crimes. This is not a heated debate at all, guys.
I'm heated right now.
Go look up lynching in the South and the West. The worst part about this is that the worst part about this is that I understand that the information was incorrect. I issued an update.
Oh no, it has nothing to do about the information. That's totally irrelevant. Even if all the information was right, it still doesn't change anything here, I don't think.
What do you mean? Wait, really?
No, it's about framing a narrative.
If it was a white person, if it was a So if it was a white person actually, and if it was like, and the police officers were like, we're not ruling out a hate crime because we have no other primary motivators for why this the crime happened at all. You still think that that's like, that's not acceptable to write about?
I mean, no. If we didn't have any other motivators for why a Muslim guy shoots up someplace, I wouldn't just assume it's terrorism, and I would get upset at other people for doing so.
Okay, that's fair. So what is the argument? You just don't report on anything less than a month old?
Fuck yeah. We can make it hyperbolic, but until like, for a couple days. Or you can report all the facts, but don't frame a narrative. Listen, if I'm not allowed to drive a car until 7 weeks after having a drink, then you're not allowed to report breaking news.
Hold on. I have a very limited window and a very limited opportunity to get a message across in any in these sorts of videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to do a video on a what do you call it? If I wanted to incorporate information about hate crimes, to just say like, look, like what level of like clarification do you think is necessary in that instance to maintain that this is like this is absolutely not a, we don't know if this is a hate crime or not, but here are some hate crime statistics regardless? Or is it
What if
unacceptable?
you said the same thing? We don't know if this is an Islamic terrorist attack, but here are some terrorist attack statistics regardless. If you're in the business of doing like breaking news,
I
or
already
whatever,
conceded. No. But I already conceded to the fact that if the FBI, if the most knowledgeable party in question in that instance is, like, I didn't think that this was going to be. I didn't assume that this was going to be any different than most other fucking murders that police officers like do a press release on. You know what I mean? When you're putting out a press statement, when you're putting out a statement to the press, you want the press to cover exactly the fucking information that you're giving. So it's like, that's very deliberate.
Get the fuck out of here, you little fuckboy piece of shit.
Nice. Oh shit, hold on.
Insane how this guy screams unethical for 25 hours a day but doesn't realize he's complicit in the unethical spreading of false information and uneducated political commentary that the morons at TYT always do. This is why all their videos get disliked.
Wow, the dislikes on YouTube. The real barometer for success.
What is it? For what?
Someone said your videos will get disliked because you're spreading fake news.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about that, dude. Obviously, dislikes don't fucking stop me from doing anything. I genuinely don't care about that at all. Even if Hasan is right, it doesn't matter because he couldn't express his point. He needs to get better, Pepe think.
Wow, they're giving you those debate tips. Wait, do you think this is fully loaded?
I keep getting timed out for being critical of Destiny. What type of North Korean shit is this?
Really?
I don't know. Probably not in my chat, I don't think. We allow people to be critical of Destiny in my chat.
Clearly a big decision.
Someone said, what Destiny is describing here isn't necessarily a flaw of your personal editorial, but rather the market-driven nature of journalism. You providing editorial content on a subject matter that has fallen out of headlines months later is a poor business decision. I believe you acted within a realm of responsible editorialism. When discussing content that the FBI is providing to the press, you corrected your content when you were wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I think I did. I'm trying to figure out what I should do differently in the future. And anything,
you can't frame a narrative.
Sort of,
just report the facts.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like anything short of like just either say that this is what the police officers are saying and like keep it there, which is not what I do. You know what I mean? It's not like that's not my job. Isn't to report the news uncritically. My job is to report the news critically and whoa a narrative around it. You know what I mean?
And Polychronopoulos shows aces. He had a better full house. What inspired fold?
Are you serious?
What? What?
Sorry, hold on.
He's got her covered.
I wish I could see how this hand played out.
With what?
I guess he's shipping it. I think he's putting her all in. It's a poker hand.
And she folds.
She fucking folds. Queen's full of aces.
Ace, queen.
On a board with ace, queen, queen. This has got to be like the fucking second nuts.
Full house.
I have no idea.
There's
what you're
literally
talking about.
one
I don't know
hand
poker at
that
all.
beats her, and it's fucking aces full. What the fuck?
Chronopoulos shows aces. What? He had a better full house. What inspired
That's
fold.
disgusting. No fucking way. How the fuck do you lay that down? That's like a hand you go broke on. What a god. Okay, I'm done.
Mr. Fanatic says, it's just like money comes missing at a party. There are 5 different people at a party. Police say these 5 are suspects. You take that information and then let's say discuss person two's criminal history. And then we find out it wasn't personal to person 2. Yeah, but if the police said we're leaning heavily towards, you know what I mean? Or we're not ruling out the possibility that criminal 2 has person 2 has a criminal history and therefore could be the responsible party. Holy shit. Then change to your job. It's my job is not an excuse. What? What is 9 days saying, dude? Like, you're a fucking idiot, dude. Holy shit. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking change my job, dog. Like, just because you don't understand what my job is or what it entails doesn't mean that... Just change your job. The police are class traders, so why do you trust their press releases? Well, they're the ones that have access to all the information. When I'm working off of police brutality, more often than not, I'm still working off of the fucking information provided by the police. You understand that, right? I just don't know how I would ever be able to do my job if I can't fucking trust the information that I'm getting from vetted sources. You know what I mean?
No one is talking about the information. We're talking about the narrative.
No,
Why do you keep talking about the information? Your information was correct. The information is fine. The narrative is not supported by the information. No one cares about the information. It's the narrative you're crafting.
But the narrative is backed by the information.
No, it's not.
That's being presented because Destiny, if they said this could have been a robbery, I'm not gonna fucking write about a hate crime, dude. That's my point. Like, if they said we're not ruling out the possibility this could be a fucking robbery, then I'm most likely going to cover it from that angle. I mean, I probably wouldn't even cover it really. That wouldn't be
but the problem is there's no harm in covering it as a robbery. That's the thing. If you imply that it's a robbery and you're wrong, there's no harm, no foul. If you imply that it's something else that carries a lot more social baggage with it, then there is potential harm there.
This is actually decent content. I know that people are getting upset and bored and whatever, but I think this is a fine topic to discuss, and I definitely wanted to hear some other people's perspectives that wasn't fucking nuanced, bro. Who's just simply using this as an effort to, you know, shit on me and TYT in general. But he's definitely not a right-winger, by the way. He just cares about ethics and journalism.